I am Vic Purcell, and this is Now Until Up, a podcast about fitness racing. Talk about a little training stuff from time to time, some business and some mindset topics. And today is going to be an interesting day. For those of you who have watched me before, I do this podcast solo. I've had guests in the past, and I actually have an episode coming up that I will be dropping with a good friend of mine. And I think that he is not a Hyrox competitor, but I think it will be very, very informative for you all who are looking for sponsors and looking to see how can I get affiliated with these large brands that we all know about. So it's going to be a good episode, but you'll see it when I drop it. And anyway, so let's get into this thing today. I got a few things I want to talk about, and I want to jump right into the first thing. How much money can you make as a Hyrox athlete? So this year specifically, and I'm only going to really jump into the numbers for the first place racing placements. So basically, I was watching Morningwood Radio. This is Hunter's podcast, and I was commenting in the chat, and basically he asked me this question on there, and we couldn't get like a direct, fully broken out answer. So I said, let me go and look this thing up. There are some websites out there, some media in this space who have posted like written content about this, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a better answer, right? So right now, based on the way things are broken out, if you look at the Hyrox majors, there's four majors, and the amount that I'm about to say is for each person. So women can make this much, and men can make this much if you come in first place at every major, in first place at the World Championship. You can make about $90,000 in race winnings. So a number that's left out of that is the amount that was made in Dubai, and that was for the first place winner was $2,500. So that really takes that number up to about 92,000 plus dollars. Now I'm not 100% sure if the World Championship is actually 50K, but I think it's supposed to be 50K this year for the men and for the women, so 50K per person. So yeah, so that's the number there. It's about we'll just say 90-ish thousand dollars. At the majors, you could make for first place about $10,000, I believe. So there's four majors. So that's the number. Now I want to jump back into the Dubai talk. So Dubai, Ryan Kent and I believe Lauren Weeks raced there and they won. So they came back home to the U.S. with a $2,500 check, and I believe the flights were probably paid for and all of those things by the organizers of that race. So Hyrox does have individual partners in certain countries that may, like, I guess you can look at it like it's like a franchise type of deal. Hyrox obviously is hand in hand with making sure everything is set out the way that it's supposed to be, but that's how you're seeing these races pop up in these countries. So I saw this, and I'm like, you could look at all the races that we have in the United States and the ones that are not majors. Somebody could step in and say, you know what, I got an extra 10K. I want my business to be front and center at the podium in this particular race, say in Dallas, Texas. They do it big in Texas. So why can't some mogul come up to Hyrox or Hyrox partner with whoever and make sure that we see the top three winners in the men and women's heats in the pro division? Why aren't they making money to come up to show up to these races? I think $10,000 isn't a significant amount of money for certain companies, right? So I want this topic to be explored a little bit more. For those of you who have been around, Hyrox was paying out for races for there were no majors, right? It was just a world championship. So the podium winners, the top three winners, were receiving money a couple of seasons ago, about really like a season and a half ago. And that stopped. And I understand, like, if they're trying to push these major races, and those are like the big, we're going to have the live stream, high quality thing. I get that. But what I'm saying is a lower purse could be accomplished without money coming out of the pockets of Hyrox Corporate if they allow partnership with entities. There's probably so many people that are competing in Hyrox who probably have their own business, who it would probably be a great look for them to be aligned with a podium winner, right? So that's something that I want to put out there. I think it's something that people should explore and maybe try to have more of these conversations about this at some of these other platforms, because the more people who talk about what I'm saying right now, you heard it here first. The more that you hear about it, the more it will be, the more pressure you'll see on the company to kind of like get a little creative, because I think it's important to make sure that the sport grows by having opportunities for the top level athletes, the top talent, having opportunities for them to receive money, right? And that's not to say that everybody's going to get rich off of this or everybody's going to be able to quit their job, but you never really know until you try to see how things go. Like in 5 years, if this thing keeps going and that's like the standard, and you do have outside money coming in just for the sponsorship look, I don't see why it wouldn't be a win for everybody. So that's that. And I want to get into another topic. So, chasing numbers. This is something that I thought about when I heard a friend of mine or acquaintance of mine. He used to work in a building that I lived in years ago. He worked in the front office, and his name is Kier Gaines. He's very popular. He's been on Oprah and everything. Back then he wasn't, but over the years, like he became I believe he's a psychologist and like cool dude. But he had a post that he was talking about satisfaction versus achievement, and basically he was saying is for a lot of people the grind is more rewarding than the goal, and also for achievement, is the next one going to be the one that satisfies you? Like, when will you be satisfied? And he used the example of Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos probably wakes up every day and says, how can I make more money? Right? It's the richest guy in the world, and he's probably asking how he can make more money. So where is the satisfaction? Where does it end? So chasing numbers. That's the satisfaction versus achievement thing. Shout out to Kiera for posting that. But when I think about chasing numbers, I think about this concept of small, medium, and large. You can look at like second by seconds when you talk about Hyrox and you talk about race times, but obviously like you may have a minute off from like your best time, right? But is it a small, medium, or large happiness? Do you have small happiness, medium happiness, or big happiness from your results? And I think that's something that, without me trying to go into the weeds of that, that's something you should think about. Like, are you chasing numbers? Are you chasing happiness? And breaking it down from like a scale of just small, medium, and large happiness, I think is an easy way to look at this, because I don't think that putting a specific number behind something is going to make most of us happy. Obviously, there's levels to this thing, but even at the highest level, if you don't set a world record, are you not going to be happy with like the success that you did have, right? If you don't make the Elite 15, that might be a bummer for you. But the work that you put in, the grind that you put in, did that bring any happiness along the way? Like, what was it about this experience? Like, why are you here? Is it just for that one look? Because once it happens, it happened. Now you got to move on to the next thing. So I'm not saying that I don't have like these achievement ideas as well for myself, but I do try to like take a step back and enjoy the process and enjoy the grind and make sure that that's rewarding to me. So chasing numbers, it's cool in certain instances, but it's not necessarily the best way to look at things. Data, all the data people in the NBA, the NFL, the people who never played the sport, I don't think they'll ever, that those numbers will never outlast the guys and the women who played who are commentators. Like they're talking about experience and like that real in-depth interaction they've had on the floor with the teams or whatever the case may be. And you can tell they enjoyed their experience, and it wasn't always about the numbers. It was about just the time that they had while they were in it. So enjoy the time that you have while you're in this thing, because you're not going to be able to match everything for the rest of your life. But you can match. I think you can definitely match the satisfaction of the grind if you play your cards right. And that brings me into another topic, which is kind of directly related to this, but so I want everybody, before I get into this, I want you to be patient with me because I'm going to make a correlation between the industry that I work in and the type of work, the job that I do, and something it's a segment of that industry. I'm going to make a correlation with that. And when is it okay to negotiate with yourself? You hear a lot of hardos out there, never negotiate. I get it. Like I love hearing those messages, but I think there needs to be broken down a little bit deeper because I do agree that you can't negotiate certain things. Again, you cannot negotiate certain things. Like it is what it is. So let me see how I'm going to align this with the industry that I work in. So in the industry that I work in, I negotiate contracts sometimes, and these contracts could be very high dollar value contracts. So I work for the government. So they call it a price negotiation memo. And basically in this memo, you're basically writing a strategy before you even go and sit across the table with somebody, where your strategy is your low, your middle, and your high. So you have a non-negotiable, right? The low, then the middle, and the high. It's certain things you have to be willing to walk away from the table if it doesn't come with the solution, or if you can't come to agreement on. And I think that this low, middle, and high is basically something that everybody in this sport, everybody in this sport, but really like the people at the top of the sport, I think it's something that maybe some of them consider this, but maybe they don't. But when you're talking about your goals, you can have random like pie in the sky goals. And I think that pie in the sky goals are good. But if you have a pie in the sky goal, you can't have a pie in the sky path to that goal. So again, if you have a pie in the sky goal, you cannot have a random pie in the sky path. Develop the pie in the sky goal. Your pie in the sky goal is to break the world record. Your pie in the sky goal is to win the world championship. That is okay. That is very normal for you to have. And hopefully you get there. But when it comes to the details, what are your goals based on? Like, what are you basing this goal on, right? So you got to look at, for example, when you talk about high, middle, and low strategy. If it's me, and if I was looking at this from, my industry and the work that I do, I have a list of things that I want to accomplish. But those lists of things, so I could say win the world championship, get a major sponsor by XYZ date to fund travel for all my races for the current and the following season, partner with the supplement company and an apparel company, etc. You could look at those goals, and this is what I have to do. I have to look at everything and then break it down to a deeper level. And I'm not saying that this is as important for like maybe the age group athlete or open division athlete, but if you're at the elite level, this is something that as a business that you may need to consider doing. Because you could look at a partnership, for example. You could have a partnership that's just a sponsorship deal where you're getting product. Maybe they give you, some money when you podium, whatever the case may be. Or you could decide to do a deal with another type of company that's going to give you equity, right? So it might be equity and cash, because this is something that, like, for example, there's some large name athletes where a lot of their deals now are not just cash. A lot of the people in the NIL, the college athletes, they're being pushed now for some of these companies, like ask them for money and equity in their company, because once you're done playing, you want to have something that doesn't require you to sweat, right? So, but again, you set a list, whether it's set a world record, qualify at the age group level, whatever it is, you just have all of your goals laid out. But you might need to break those things down into segments and decide, all right, I'm not negotiating this part of it. I have to have this. But you know what? This part of it, I don't know. Maybe I'll be willing to take this as long as I can get this. I'll let that go. And it's the negotiations that I've been in. You're literally is like, all right, I'm gonna do this. Let me get this over here. And something completely unrelated in the deal, because some of the stuff I'm dealing with, it might have been like a large like engineering contract or some technical contract where something that's over here, I might take this, but something that's like 10 pages down, because I took this, I'm going to say, because I took this, I need you to let me get this over here. So let me get into the next part. So these goals, you're negotiating with yourself here, not in the work that I do, but in the racing space, the fitness racing space, you're negotiating your goals with yourself. And you got to be willing to walk away from certain things if you can't get it. So when you have your low goal, and I don't want to say your low goal is really a high goal, it's just the bare minimum. What does that look like? So you don't want to aim low. You want to establish a low up front, but your low is actually a win if your strategy is sound. So when you're talking about the thing that I think is the most important here is, how do you balance what it is that you want to achieve in this space? How do you balance this with everything in your life? So you want to have a healthy relationship with your family, your friends, and your current job. While, to do that, A, B, and C is required, right? If you want to maintain a level of fitness and increase that level of fitness to maybe set a world record, X, Y, Z is required for that. If you want to qualify and compete at an elite level, elemental P is required for that. So how do we sit down and negotiate a win-win situation so we can all stay on target if we're sitting across the table from ourselves? Imagine you're negotiating at a table and it's just you versus you. What is it that you cannot Like when it comes to family, when it comes to work, like what is it that you're just not willing to push to the side? And that answer is going to be different for everybody. It depends on where you are with your life. Some people have children. Some people are single and living in the woods and, can just train all day. And some people are running their own company, right? You can do all of those things, but just make sure that you set a strategy out as to how you make sure you do not let any of the things you actually care about fall to the wayside. Because in that point, you didn't win the negotiation. You messed up. And that happens in my industry too. Sometimes people will sign a contract and something that they should have maybe held on to, they let it go. They let it go too easy. And because they just wanted to, I just gotta have, but you didn't really have to have that. You could have maybe had a conversation with somebody else. Maybe have a conversation with your wife or have a conversation with your trainer or your coach or whoever it is. But what is it that you actually have to have? And do you have to have it right now? Or can you say, you know what? Maybe I can't do it in 6 months, but I can maybe do it in 9 months if I do a 9-month plan or whatever it is. But again, negotiating with yourself is going to be, I think, for any level, but I want to talk specifically to the highest level, the people who want to be at the highest levels. If I was advising you and I had to actually sit across the table with you and some other person, some other entity that wanted to be involved in your dreams and your goals or whatever the case may be, this is how I would break things down. I would break things down from a low, medium, and high. Before the person I'm sitting across from, it wouldn't know my low, medium, high, right? They have no idea. I know what it is. So, but I'm going in with my high. I'm trying to get everything. But if I can't get everything, hopefully I land somewhere. Hopefully I don't land at the low. Hopefully I can be somewhere in the middle, right? And that middle, if you want to switch it back over, hopefully your brain's staying lined in here. If it's Hyrox, maybe the middle might be still win the world championship or still get yourself in the elite 15. That might still be something that you're not compromising. But the other things that you say that you want as you're on this path, the things that you want to build, those are the things that, you got to look at the individual details. You need to sit down, and the way that I had to write these long memorandums, these documents can be like I just say a stack of paper, depending on the scale of what it is. But it's necessary, it's required. So put that level of detail into your plans. I'm not saying that I've done this in this particular space at that level, but I think it's something that I have to do. It's like, what's realistic for me? Because this is not, I'm not in a vacuum as I'm, preparing myself for these races. Like if I want to do something, whether it is like relationship wise, or if I want to have kids, or if I want to try some other career path or whatever the case may be, those are all things I need to consider. You can't just willy-nilly set that in your mind and just come up with I could just do it like this. You need to have your low, your medium, and your high. So hopefully that message gets across to you. And I hope I didn't lose anybody there, but I think that if you can receive that, I think it'll be beneficial for you. So that's really all that I had today. And I think that the next episode, when I have my guests on here, hopefully you get a lot out of that. I'm really deep on this business side of the game in terms of my interests. I love training. I spend a lot of time training. Yesterday, I did a 60-mile bike ride by myself. And then today, I did a hybrid session at Elevate. And I feel good. My body feels good. And I wouldn't necessarily say that would be the case a couple months ago. So it's just the progress that I can see in my fitness, my recovery, and, balancing out the longer efforts with the more intense efforts like I had today. it's definitely something that I think it is working, right? So again, I appreciate you all for listening in on this podcast and allowing me to give you a little bit of how my mind works here. And again, check out all the other episodes, and we got some fresh content coming up for you. So I'm Vic Purcell. This is Now Until Up. Peace.